Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste, good morning and welcome everybody. I offer my pranams to revered Swami Sarvapriyananda ji and my profound gratitude for organizing all this. Actually, we are all grateful to him because he is the one who extended the invitation and organized all these programs yesterday and today. My pranams and namaskars to the other monks here, Swami Brahmatmananda ji, Swami Abhikarananda ji, to Brahmachari Nicholas here, and all the devotees, those who have been around for a long time. There are people here who have literally built this place up from ground up, and I got the tour just now. I've met some of the long-timers here, and an owl also. We just met an owl right now, sitting right there. I thought that's particularly auspicious because in the Hindu worldview, owl is the Vahana of Lakshmi, which is, so it's a symbol of well-being, prosperity. And in the Greek worldview, it is associated with Minerva, wisdom. So well-being and wisdom, both of them, the owl is symbolizing that. And somebody told me that it's also an eclipse today. So more about that later on. There's a very interesting insight about eclipse and enlightenment. What is enlightenment? That is the subject this morning. I remember reading Heinrich Zimmer, the famous Indologist, German, who later relocated to United States, to New York, and most of his writings were published from here. There's a Vedanta connection, actually. Joseph Campbell worked on the final drafts of his works, and he was very close to the Vedanta center there, the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center in New York. Heinrich Zimmer says that the philosophies of India are very positive. They are not pessimistic as you might think, that it's all samsara, it is all sorrow. No, they're all positive because they say that there is a deep solution, a great final answer to the question of our human lives. What is the point of this human life? Can we overcome suffering? Can we attain ultimate fulfillment? And the answer from ancient times in India till today is yes, 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 you can. And we must. The goal of human life is God realization, self-realization, the realization of the absolute, and this is called enlightenment. So this has been the great project, the obsession of India from the most ancient times. Mark Twain said that in the world of religion there is only 1 millionaire. Today he would have said a billionaire or something, or even trillionaire, because I heard Elon Musk is on his way to become the first trillionaire of the world. So there's only 1 millionaire, and that is India. From the ancient times, if you look at the sacred literature, there are so many words for it. Mukti, moksha, nirvana, an ancient word, apavarga, kaivalya. So all of these words, many, many words for something that these ancients found. And they made it their project. The whole civilization made it made it the whole point of its existence. I remember reading a commentary by Shankaracharya in the Taittiriya Upanishad, where the The sentence in the Upanishad is Asad Brahma iti ched Veda asanneva sabhavati. Suppose one says that there is no such thing, there is no ultimate reality, no Atman, Brahman, God, all of this is just superstition, it's all obsolete. There is no such thing. Suppose you say that. And the Upanishad says if you said that, then you would not exist. But you do exist. There's no doubt about it. The one thing that we do not doubt, Descartes said that the one thing that cannot be doubted is our own existence. And our own existence and God's existence, the existence of the Absolute, are one and the same thing. Yes. Come on in. If there's a seat near you, raise your hand. If there's an empty seat. Yeah. There. Oh, there's a seat there. Sri Ramakrishna says, there's a small collection of Sri Ramakrishna's choicest teachings called Sri Ramakrishna Upadesh, collected by Swami Brahmananda, no less than Swami Brahmananda. Just Sri Ramakrishna's teachings, and organized, in 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So it's called, in English it's called the Words of the Master. Sri Ramakrishna Upadesh. It's a short collection in Bengali. It's a pocket book. In fact, the Swami in San Francisco, Swami Ashokananda, who was there in 1940s, 50s, 60s, he said once that this is going to be a spiritual classic in the future, and the world shall carry it around in their pockets. After I read that, I started carrying it around in my pockets. It's not right here, but it's in my suitcase. So I carry it wherever I go. And in that collection, the choicest collection of the teachings of the collection of the choicest teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, collected by his dear Rakhal, Swami Brahmananda. The first teaching and the first sentence of that book is, when you know yourself, you know God. When a man realizes who he is, he knows God. When a man knows who he is, he knows God. So this in Vedanta, in Advaita Vedanta, this is called an identity statement, a profound statement called a Mahavakya, a great profound statement. And the definition of these Mahavakyas is this identity between the individual and the cosmic. Jiva Brahma Aikya, the identity of you and the Absolute. So when you know yourself, you know the Absolute. When you know yourself, you know God. The advantage of this is we cannot doubt our own existence. We can doubt God's existence. There are atheists, there are skeptics, there always have been. But nobody doubts their own existence. Nobody. You just cannot. Try it, you can't. To doubt your own existence, you must exist. I wonder if I exist. Who's saying it? I. The one thing that you cannot doubt. The French mathematician, philosopher Descartes, his famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. He set out on his project of skepticism, universal skepticism. Let me doubt whatever can be doubted. And then come down to one thing. What is it that can never be doubted? And he found what can never be doubted is our own existence. Everything else can be doubted, because it's being mediated through our senses, our minds, and therefore it could be a dream, it could be a hallucination, it could be the Matrix movie. But our own existence cannot be doubted. And look at the genius, the sheer genius of Vedanta, where it takes this most indubitable aspect of our existence, my own existence, and says, this is the Absolute. If you plumb the depths of your own existence, if you truly appreciate who or what you are, you would find God. Vivekananda put it in his own way. He said, Vedanta is the divinity within us and the oneness of all existence. The divinity within us is what he called our real nature, who we are. And the oneness of all existence was what he called God. The only God I believe in is the sum total of all human souls. The oneness of all existence. So that is Vedanta. If you know yourself, you know who you are. You know what you are. And this knowing oneself, realizing what I am, this is called enlightenment. I mentioned this Shankaracharya's commentary there. He says if you doubt the existence of Brahman, if you doubt the existence of the Absolute, if you doubt the existence of some ultimate reality, then Indian society has no purpose at all. He raises this question, he raises a very, very interesting observation. This whole organization of Indian society, he says, Brahma pratipatti artham tesham. All of it is designed for enlightenment, for realization of Brahman. Now, if you say that there is no such thing, then the whole thing falls apart. There's no point to anything then. So this was a whole civilization engineered to, geared towards realization of the ultimate, geared towards enlightenment. So we are asking a profound question here. What is true enlightenment? And the text that I have chosen is one of the Upanishads. Upanishads are the very basis of Advaita Vedanta, of Vedanta. Vedanta nama Upanishad pramanam. The source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads is Vedanta. Vedanta is literally that. And among these Upanishads, 10 are taken to be important. They are called major Upanishads, though it's a modern term, major Upanishads. But it's because those 10 were selected by Shankaracharya to write his wonderful commentaries in Sanskrit called Bhashya, commentaries on these Upanishads. Isha kena katha prashna mundamandukya titirihi aitareyam cha chandogyam brihad aranyakam tatha. This is a list of 10 Upanishads. It's your syllabus. If you want to study Vedanta, you study these 10 Upanishads at least with their commentaries. The second one in this list, Isha Kena Katha Prashna. Kena, the Kena Upanishad, is the one I'm going to use as a basis for today's investigation into what is enlightenment. So what we will do now is, we will start with the Kena Upanishad, proceed with it for some time, then take a deep dive into the philosophy of enlightenment, then resurface again and rejoin the Kena Upanishad to round it all off. So, start with Kena Upanishad, then plunge into the profound waters of the philosophy of enlightenment. What is enlightenment? The deepest possible thinking about it. Then come back again and rejoin the Kena Upanishad to say a grand final view of what enlightenment is in Advaita Vedanta. So the Kena Upanishad, it starts with a question. It's very interesting. The Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and many, many, many texts, they're all designed as question answers, as dialogues. They all start when we have a question. Suppose I don't have a question, then Vedanta doesn't start for you. If you are satisfied, then what about people who don't have questions? What will happen to them? Life will teach them to ask questions. When you struggle, go through life, and then you learn, and then you have questions about life. What is happening to me? What am I? What's the point of all this? The Kena Upanishad also starts with a question. We don't have the names of the teachers and the students there, but it's a dialogue throughout. And what a question. I'll chant the original Sanskrit just to get a feel of that ancient language. And then we will get, I'll translate everything, don't worry, so you won't miss anything if you don't know Sanskrit. Keneshitam patati preshitam mana kena prana prathama prayeti yuktaha keneshitam vachamimam vadanti chakshu shrotram kaudeva yunakti. The student asks the teacher, impelled by what, inspired by what, instigated by what are these thoughts coming in my mind? These feelings, these ideas, these memories, these desires, likes and dislikes, these projects, these fancies, all of these, our inner mental life. How is it happening? Why is it happening? And by what light are my eyes and ears illumined. Why am I getting this experience of seeing, of hearing, of smelling, of tasting, of touching, of speaking, of doing stuff? In fact, what he's asking is, what is it that gives us the experience of living, of life? I'm alive. And this is an experience. What powers this experience? Kaudeva yunakti. Which bright being propels this, powers this, illumines this? He is poetically asking about consciousness. Right? What is it that gives us the experience of life? Why is it fun? Why is it painful? Why is it so vibrant? I can see so many colors and shapes. And, it's amazing, rich what I'm seeing. Why can I hear beautiful music of the violin a little while ago? The speech, the silence. Even the silence is an experience. How is the taste of food? The warmth and the flavor of coffee which you just had. How? How is this happening? All of our life is first-person experience. First-person experience. In technical terms, nowadays this is called qualia, first-person experience. That is life. It's a very important question. And if you boil it down, it's basically consciousness experiencing objects. There's consciousness experiencing these objects through the eyes, this is seeing. Consciousness experiencing sound, that's hearing. Consciousness experiencing thoughts and feelings, that's our inner mental life. Consciousness experiencing and powering action, talking, walking, driving, playing, working. So all of that, it's consciousness at the back of it. Consciousness plus object is equal to experience. C plus O is equal to E. If you want to put it that way. It's a broad framework for all of what we experience as life, what we call life. In that, two things are clear to us. Object, these are objects. Experience, well, life is experience. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, speaking, as the student said, this is all experience. The mysterious part in all of this is at the source of all of this, consciousness. C plus O is equal to E. E we can see. O we know what O objects are. But now the question is, what is that bright being in the midst of all this, the C? What's it's that? And now today, we are at a wonderful cusp in our investigation of consciousness. In the last 20 years, consciousness studies has really taken off. I was saying yesterday that it's a great time to be alive if you're interested in this question. Like this student was thousands of years ago. If you're interested in this question of what is consciousness, the core of our existence, what am I really? Again, don't forget the thread. Why am I asking this? Because the promise is, if I truly know myself, I will know the Absolute, I will know God. And that constitutes enlightenment. So there is a method to my madness. Why am I here right now? It's because we are answering the question, what is enlightenment? So what is consciousness? Right now there is a tremendous interest in consciousness studies. Tremendous. Yesterday I was mentioning how there is recently a video has been put up in YouTube about all the possible answers. 325 theories of consciousness. If you Google it on YouTube, 325 theories of consciousness. There actually are catalogued 325 answers to this question, what is consciousness? Which means we don't have an answer. In science, when you have an answer, you have an answer. You do not have 325 answers. If you have 325 answers, that's equal to saying, I don't know. I have many theories about it, but I really don't know. And in the interview, it starts with Vedanta. It says, the most ancient formulations of this question was in the Upanishads. What this Upanishad we are talking about is one of them. There are others also. The most ancient formulation we find in the Upanishads of Hinduism in India, way back thousands of years ago. And then it mentions Advaita Vedanta as a very sophisticated answer to these questions. And of course, it goes on to other answers and so on and so forth. So, this question, the question has been asked then, thousands of years ago. It's been asked again and again. It's not that answers were not found. Vivekananda says this question has been asked in the past. It's not that answers were not found. Answers were found. But each generation must ask this question over and over for themselves, and the answer comes down the ages and gathers strength. It gathers nuance and more layers. Now we can try to answer it in terms of neuroscience, in terms of AI, in terms of quantum theory, whatnot, the knowledge of our times. The knowledge of our times. So, the student asks this question. This is a sophisticated way of asking, who am I? What bright being impels all of that? Stay with the question. I was thinking, the philosopher Arindam Chakravarti, he told me, stay with the question, Swami. Because when we hear these questions, we are so excited. What is consciousness? Who am I? Yeah, let me find out. Let me flip the pages. Go ahead, quickly, come to the point. In the Katha Upanishad, the little boy asks the Lord of Death, what is there after death? We say, yeah, I want to know that. And we quickly flip the pages and what did the Lord of Death say? Good, that's what we do. Arjuna asks questions to Krishna and we want to know what Krishna said. Yeah, we feel, yes, that's my question too. But first, stay with the question. The philosopher told me, Swami, stay with the question. So let it vibrate within you, soak it in until it becomes our question. The question itself, the more I study Vedanta, the more I study philosophy, I see that the answers are already hidden in a seed form in the question. It's good to stay with the question. And now I was thinking, look at our modern AI, our chat GPT, and whatever it does, it follows from the prompt that you give it. Now they are saying, you don't need to learn anything else. Learn promptology. The science of prompting AI. That's all you need to go through life. That's what they're saying now. Which means the question, the initial instigation, the seed which you give, everything else follows from there. Look at the nature of this question. How do I see? If I ask you this question, you would say, go to the ophthalmology department. They'll tell you. They have a pretty good idea. If you look at the questions, they'll all appear to be related to the different medical departments. Ear, nose, throat, doctor. There are libraries and libraries of books, shelves and shelves, libraries and libraries of books on the eyes, on the ears, on speech. So all of these, psychology. This is the question. Is the question about psychology? How do I think? Is it a question about psychology? It would appear to be so. And then he says, how do I see? So is it a question about ophthalmology? It would appear to be so. But notice something curious about this question. It's one question. What is that one light which gives me the experience of thinking, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching? Meaning thereby, if you would investigate the body, if you would find every answer about physiology, answer all the questions of physiology, answer all the questions of psychology, and so on, you would still not come to the answer this person was seeking. It is not a question about the physical apparatus of the eyes, not a question about the physical apparatus of the ears. It's not a question about the physical apparatus or the psychological apparatus of the mind. It's not a question about psychology, it's not a question about ophthalmology, it's not a question about hearing, it's not a question about speech. No. It's a question about consciousness. It's one question. The great philosopher Wittgenstein said, when all of the great problems of science have been solved, all the questions of science have been answered, nothing of value would have been learned. What a stunning statement to say. Why? No. It still doesn't solve the most profound question about who or what we are. This is the thing. Look at the beauty of this question. Now, what is the answer? The teacher answers. The answer is even more amazing than the question. The Upanishads are amazing texts, and the Kena Upanishad is especially stunning. There is a twist and a drama and humor at every step. It's utterly unexpected. Just as this question is amazing, now look at the answer. The teacher answers, Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mano yad vachoha vacham sau pranasya pranaha chakshushas chakshuratimuchya dhira pretyasmad lokadamrita bhavanti. What did he say? It is the ear of the ear, it is the mind of the mind, it is the speech of the speech, it is the eye of the eye. And realizing this, one transcends and attains immortality, the wise one. In this one statement, he has given us the answer to the mystery of consciousness. And what's the point of it? Why are we investigating it? And what will we get out of this? The answer to what consciousness is, and why should we pursue it, and if we do pursue it and understand what it is, what benefit are we going? What's the point of this entire project? That also is answered. First, let's look at the beauty of this answer and the stunning nature of this answer. He says, you want to know how you're getting the experience of hearing? His student says, yes. It is because of the ear of the ear. What? And before he can think about it, how you get the experience of thinking, imagining, desiring, remembering, all of that, the inner mental life which we have? Yes, it is the mind of the mind. And how you have the experience of seeing, that student by now knows. He says, don't tell me, it's the eye of the eye. You're right. And the experience of speaking. By the way, speaking is just a placeholder for all activity. Speech is the motor organ, so all activity, not just speaking, walking, running and grasping and driving and playing and working, all of that. How? It is a speech of the speech, and so on. What does he mean here? Notice three things here about this answer. One is, when you say you get the experience of hearing because of the ear of the ear, you could have just said, you want to know how you hear? Yes. The ear. Study the ear. You'll know how you hear. You want to know how you see? Study the eye. You'll know how you see. No, he didn't say that. He said, it's the ear of the ear, eye of the eye, the mind of the mind, the speech of the speech. Meaning thereby, point number one, what we are talking about here, consciousness, is distinct from physiology. It's not the ears. It's not the eyes. With eyes closed, when we dream, we have a brilliant, colorful experience. We're literally seeing in our mind's eye with our eyes closed. Don't we see in the dreams? Nothing going on in the room. We hear speech. So it's not really the physical ears or the eyes. It is the eye of the eye, ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. By that he means your question, the answer to your question, what you're looking for, the mystery of consciousness, who we are. It's not the body. It's not physiology. The answer does not lie in the study of the eyes or the ears or the physical. Oh, it's the mind. No, it's the mind of the mind. It's not even psychology. It's not the mind either. So when you use terms like ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind, you mean something distinct from the eyes and ears and tongue and the body, the senses. You mean that something distinct even from the mind. Already we are here in uncharted territory, because right now the state of the art in consciousness studies is, if you ask people in consciousness studies, what are you studying? Consciousness. You give me some examples. What are you studying? Oh, memory and cognition and perception. Immediately the teacher will say, oh, but that's seeing, that's hearing, that's smelling, that's thinking, that's feeling. Those are at the level of the body and of the mind. And consciousness is not physical or even psychological. This distinction between the psychological and consciousness, this is not understood yet, even in consciousness studies today. This is something that I struggle to point out again and again in different forums when I speak about it. Mind and consciousness are not the same thing. Why not? Pretty obvious. Remember our equation? C plus O is equal to E. When I say I have the conscious experience of thinking or feeling, what is the object? Thoughts, feelings. So I am thinking. So I am thinking of rain or the owl. Yeah, that's a good example. I am remembering the owl right now. And consciousness studies experts would say, yeah, that's consciousness. Vedanta would say, yes, but you have to make a distinction. The owl, remembered owl, is an object. And that which experiences the memory of the owl, that is consciousness. Consciousness is not, it's the mind of the mind. It's distinct from the mind. It's distinct from the thought. It's distinct from the memory. It's distinct from emotion. It's distinct from pain or pleasure. Even ego, when I say I, that's a function of the mind. So in that case, the real you is distinct from the ego also. If you are aware of it, you are not it. Anything that you can designate as it, this, then you are not it. That's an object. Yeah. This table, yeah, obviously I'm not the table. But the hand touching the table, this hand, therefore I'm not this hand. Because it's an object. This breath, in breath, out breath. And the mindfulness meditator will say, stay with the breath. Vedanta will say, good, it's a good practice to stay with the breath, but notice you are not the breath. That's what we want to take away from that. If you are aware of the breath, it's a good thing to be aware of the breath. If you are aware of the breath, you are not the breath, because it's this breath. Thought, feelings, memories, my knowledge, ideas, my worldview, my opinions, all this memory, this opinion, this idea, therefore I am none of them. And most fascinating and unsettling, this ego, the feeling of I am none of them. That's also an object. Therefore I am not the ego either. So this is the first thing we take away from the peculiar language that the teacher is using. Ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind. We are not the body, we are not the mind, we are not even the ego. We are already in extraordinary territory. That's what we thought about ourselves till now. I am this body, these thoughts, these feelings, these memories, these grumbles and complaints, these projects and fancies. This is who I am. No, these are all objects. And you are that which experiences these objects. You are the eye of the eye, ear of the ear, mind of the mind, and so on. The second thing which we notice in this answer is, when you say ear of the ear, you're not saying something else. You're not saying consciousness illumining the ear. Ear of the ear, mind of the mind, eye of the mind, eye of the eye, and so on. Tongue of the tongue. You're saying that not only is it distinct from the ears and the eyes and the mind and so on, but it is right there and pervading the ears and the eyes. It is, in philosophical language, not only is it transcendent, but it is immanent. It's right there. Where the thing which we are looking for, consciousness, where is it? It's here. In the body? Yes. In the mind? Yes. In our sensory experiences? Yes. In all our experiences, it's right there. In the experience of hearing, consciousness is there. In the experience of seeing, consciousness is there. In the experience of thinking and remembering and desiring and enjoying and suffering, consciousness is there. It is immanent. Two things we have got. It is distinct from the body-mind, but it's right there shining in and through the body-mind. And the third thing we get from this description is, it's in singular. Singular. Eyes, ears, mind, speech, these are all different and disparate elements. But the teacher answers, confirming the question. There is one mystery behind all of these. Consciousness is one reality. It's not a variety of different functions. There are big debates taking place in consciousness theory on these issues. So here is a very distinct, very clear point of view, that there is a reality called pure consciousness. Pure means distinct from body-mind. Not the kind of consciousness studies which is a bundle of sense perceptions and thoughts and feelings and all of that, plus consciousness. See, we all agree we are conscious. Nobody here says I'm unconscious. I mean, after listening to a lot of Vedanta, one becomes a little unconscious. But other than that, we are conscious. Who denies it? But we say we are this body-mind with consciousness. Yeah, there is consciousness, but here's the body and the mind and the personality, and I'm conscious. But Vedanta wants us to say your consciousness with the body-mind. Reversing it. Take your stand. Your primary identification should be consciousness. Primary identification should not be the body. It should not be a bundle of thoughts or a personality. These sayings, I don't know what the source is, but very clever, very nicely put. We think we are human beings in search of a spiritual experience. We are actually spiritual beings having a human experience. We are consciousness having a human experience. And another saying, the person can never be free. You'll be free of the person. You means consciousness can be free of the person. The person can never be free. You are not a person, you are consciousness. And being consciousness, being this impersonal consciousness, you can clothe yourself with a personality, which we have done, all of us. And that means being impersonal, we can clothe ourselves with multiple personalities. Not at the same time, that's a pathological condition. But in sequence, all of us have multiple personality disorders. All of us. We have been many personalities in the past, we are something right now, and we are going to be something else in the future. What Vedanta says is that's because you are not one particular person. You are an impersonal principle, which is pure consciousness. So 3 things we have gathered from this. That you transcend the body-mind. You are present right here and now in this body-mind. And you are this one impersonal consciousness. From this strange elliptical language. One might ask, why didn't the teacher say it straight away? You are pure consciousness, you are Chaitanyam, Atman, Brahman. If he said it, what would happen to us and the student would start searching for it. You are pure consciousness, or you are Atman or Brahman. Student will say, great answer. Now what is that Atman, Brahman? You yourself are that. So in order to show you that it is your own innermost nature, our own innermost nature, that language is used. And throughout the Kena Upanishad, this teacher skillfully guides us back to ourselves again and again, points it back at ourselves again and again, making it more and more subtle and precise, dramatic. And if you realize this, you will realize You are not the body-mind. You will be free of the body-mind while being in the body-mind. That's the meaning of transcending body-mind. Ati muchya dhira. And then the result is moksha, nirvana, the goal of this entire project. Freedom from suffering, freedom from samsara. The way it is put is, pretya asmad lokad amrita bhavanti, you attain to immortality. Transcending this world. Two meanings of transcending this world. While living in this body, you transcend. That is called jivan mukti, free while living. That's the goal of Vedanta. Here, now, here itself. Not after death, not post-mortem spirituality. Right now, living spirituality. And also after death. After death, once one gives up this body, once this body passes, you go to your real nature where there is no more repeated births and deaths. I'm reminded of an anecdote I read about Swami Madhavanandaji, who was the president of our order in the 1960s. He came to New York for a brain operation. He had a tumor, and so he was recovering in the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Society in New York at that time, and he was the president of the entire order. At that time, a big issue in America was the birth control pill, whether it is good or bad or should be used, should not be used. So some of the American devotees, they were debating this. And they thought, the Swami, of course, won't be interested in such things. Whether you're in support of it, whether you're against it. And from a distance, the Swami said, I support it. I said, oh, Swami, you know about it. You have an opinion about it. He said, yes, no birth, no death. Freedom from this cycle. And the master in Kena Upanishad, he says, the teacher says, this freedom from birth and death, that is the benefit. So two ways of looking at liberation. Jivan mukti, free while living. Videha mukti, the final bodiless liberation after death. Wonderful. The student is convinced, eager. Yes, this is my real nature. I would like to know this. Please teach me. Please show me. I want to be enlightened. I want to be free. Teach me. And the teacher says, I cannot. Why? Why not? It's not that I won't. You know it, right? No, I don't know it. You don't know it. Yes, I don't know it, and I can't teach it to you. I said, what do you mean? Na tatra vāgacchati, na chakshur gacchati, no manaha, na vidmo, na vijanimo, yathaita danushishyat. We do not know it. We do not know how we can teach it. Why don't you know it? I thought you are enlightened. You can't know it because you can't see it, or hear it, or smell it, or taste it, or touch it. Consciousness never becomes an object of the senses. Yes, but we can think about it. These are all important in enlightenment, we'll see. The mind doesn't go there. You can't think about it. Well, at least you can speak about it. You are speaking about it after all. No, you can't even speak about it. And therefore, we neither know it, nor can we teach it. You can imagine the disappointment. He says, you should have told us this. We drove all the way out here on this perfectly nice Seattle Sunday morning, and now you say that you don't know it, you don't know what you're talking about. And the teacher says, wait, there is a way. See how deep these things run. Yesterday I mentioned a debate I was having with a leading AI researcher right here in Seattle in Google. So his argument was, look, AIs model us. How do they know? Well, they have something called language. The large LLMs, large language models, they're all about language. And so through language, the entirety of human knowledge, which is encoded in language, is available to the AI. And the AI is using it to model us. And therefore, and then I, being the smarty pants that I am, or smarty dhoti, not pants, I said, but enlightenment, Atman, Brahman, it escapes language. It's beyond language. So the AI can never grasp it. But then immediately I saw the flaw in that argument. And he also was quick enough to jump on it. He said, but it may be beyond language, but that doesn't stop you from speaking endlessly about it. So all the spiritual instruction which is there in your Vedanta, in all the Upanishads and the texts and all that, that's language. And if you can model that reality with the help of that, say the Kena Upanishad, for example, so can the AI. Yeah. So the AI can also learn Vedanta and teach Vedanta. Why not? So that's his perspective. So there are deep arguments. You can argue this. The teacher says there is a way to become enlightened. What is that way? See how dramatic the Upanishad is. The disciple is at roller coaster ride. Wow, this is wonderful, teach me. I can't. Oops, go down. And then he says, wait, there is a way. And it is upward now. Anyadeva tadvidita datho avidita adhi iti shushruma purvesham yenastadvya chachakshire. The ancients have taught us this way. How beautiful. He takes no credit. He doesn't want a citation. He doesn't want credits for it. There's no concept of plagiarism. The whole thing was always attributed to the ancients. So the ancients have passed on this knowledge to us. And remember, who's saying this? The Kena Upanishad, one of the most ancient existing texts. For them, the ancients. What is the way? It is other than the known and it's other than the unknown. What you're talking about, pure consciousness, it's other than known. So, okay, that I understand. Whenever I go to learn something, I'm asking you about something that's unknown. No, it's other than the unknown also. It is not something that you know. Okay, so I don't know it. No, it's not something that you do not know. There's only one thing which answers to this. Imagine all our universe, this universe of discourse, divided into two categories. All that we know, everything that we have heard, seen, smelled, tasted, spoken about, language, large language models, what AI can know or cannot know, all of that. It's a very profound statement. All that can be known. Remember, known means perception, through thought, through language. So, this is one side of it, the object of knowledge. And then there is that which is beyond seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, what I do not know, what I have not understood, what I have not thought about, what I have not spoken about, the unknown. And the teacher is saying it is other than the known. And should be in the realm of the unknown. No, it's other than the unknown also. There's only one thing which does not fall in these two sets. And these sets are not mutually exclusive because there is a boundary. There is a, stuff which is unknown can become known. Stuff which, can we close that? Stuff which is known can also become unknown because we can forget the stuff. A lot of the stuff we have learnt in school is already unknown to us. But it leaves out the question of to whom is all this known and to whom is all this unknown. Consciousness is not something that is known, but yet you cannot say consciousness is unknown. Because it is to consciousness that things are known or unknown. Go back to the old equation. Consciousness plus object is equal to experience. Those objects which have come in the realm of our conscious knowledge, which we have seen, heard, smelled, tasted, talked about, thought about, that is in the realm of knowledge. And those objects which have not yet been presented to consciousness through our instruments of knowledge, those are in the realm of the unknown. But consciousness itself, is it known or is it unknown? It's neither known because it never becomes an object. But it's not unknown because it illumines all objects. All the time it is revealing itself in the act of experiencing. To understand this, think about the eyes. When we see stuff, in one sense, you notice the eyes are seeing all this, but the eyes cannot see themselves. And don't tell me to look in a mirror. In a mirror, you see the reflection of the eyes. In a selfie, you see the picture of the eyes. But the eyes, the way they are directly seeing stuff, that way they cannot see themselves. So are the eyes unseen? Not quite. In every seeing, the eyes are revealed. Now, when I see this gorgeous display of color, and shapes and people and furniture and space, I am also experiencing my eyes in every seeing. Seeing the table is an experience of the table, but also of my eyes. Seeing the audience is an experience of the audience, but also of my eyes. Seeing the space and the forest is an experience of the space and the forest, but also of the eyes, because the eyes are revealing all of that, and they are self-revealed in the act of revealing all of that. I cannot truly say that the eyes are unseen. So they are more than seen, I can say. They are seen, quote unquote, seen in every seeing. Consciousness is experienced, is known in every knowing. Even in the unknown, to what is something unknown? To consciousness. When I say that X is unknown, that's in consciousness I am making a statement. Let me give you the example. Our senior most member in New York is Bill Conrad. He's 101 this year. Just a couple of months ago, he became 101. So he's a Vedanta veteran. He's also a World War II veteran, by the way. And he is a committed physicalist in some sense. And he says, Swami, it is not true that the universe appears in consciousness. Rather, the universe is outside. This room exists apart from consciousness. And I'll prove it to you. Let us put a camera in this room, and we will walk out of this room. The camera will record the stuff in this room, and when we come back into the room, I will show you the picture in the camera, which will show you an empty room without existing very nicely, without any consciousness anywhere. No conscious beings. I said, Bill, in your own consciousness, in your awareness, you designed this experiment. In your awareness, in your consciousness, you invited us to leave the room. In your consciousness, you invited us back into an apparently empty room. In your consciousness, you displayed the pictures in the camera showing an empty room which appeared in your consciousness. At which time did you step outside your consciousness? Everything, all knowledge, all experience is not only possible in consciousness, all knowledge is possible in consciousness, but the unknown is also presented in consciousness. Another example. In a dream, suppose you're walking in the forest, it's in your dream. Now you will find that some part of the forest is known. I can see it, I can hear the stuff. And you also have the feeling there's a vast part of the forest and the lands all around and Seattle and all of that, which is unknown by me right now. But when you wake up, what will happen? You will realize that known part of the forest and the vast unknown surrounding it, all was in the mind. It was dreamt up in the mind. In the same way, this is a profound truth to understand, not easily understood. When you say consciousness is fundamental, all-pervasive, non-dual, question will arise, in that case I should know everything and all the time. Not necessarily. That which is known and that which is unknown are both presented in consciousness. It is known to consciousness, in consciousness. It is unknown to consciousness, in consciousness. So that is the real nature of consciousness, beyond the known and the unknown. And the rest of the Upanishad is just an expansion of this teaching. It comes up again and again in a dozen different ways. Now is the time. First part of the teaching is over. Our introduction to enlightenment is, who am I? And that who am I translates into... See, the big question is, what is the absolute? God, Brahman, Atman. And from there question comes, who am I? Because the promise is, if you know who am I, you know Brahman, Atman, God. But to know who am I, what are you trying to know? Are you trying to know the body? That will be physiology. Are you trying to know the mind? That will be psychology. No. The question sharpens into, what is consciousness? And then the nature of consciousness is pointed out as transcendent, immanent, and one. Eye of the eye, ear of the ear, mind of the mind. As other than the known, other than the unknown. Not an object to be known by senses, not something to be thought of by the mind, not something to be expressed in language. Other than the known, other than the unknown, constituting our real nature as consciousness, which illumines both the known and the unknown. So far, this is the journey so far. If you thought that was dry, it was abstract, you're in trouble. Now the real abstract part begins. We're going to have a deep dive into the philosophy of enlightenment in Advaita Vedanta with the help of the eclipse. So it goes like this. So now I'm drawing from a manual of Advaita Vedanta called Vedanta Sara, the essence of Vedanta. There the question is, taking from the Upanishads, can you know consciousness, Atman or Brahman, with the mind, or can you not know? Can the mind not reveal it? What's the role of the mind? If you say it's not an object, not something that the mind can think about, then there's no other way of knowing it. If you think it's the mind can know it, then it's an object of the mind. And the Upanishads seem to say both things. Here, just now we read, we heard the Upanishad, the teacher is saying, no manaha, the mind cannot reveal consciousness. We again read again and again, avang manasa gocharam, not accessed by speech or by the mind. But the Upanishad also says, there are Upanishads which say, manasaiva anudrashtavyam, only by the mind it can be realized. So the question now remains, can it be known by the mind or can it not be known by the mind? Or you can refine it further. What's the role of the mind in enlightenment? In fact, what is enlightenment? Deep dive. We have defined enlightenment as knowing what is consciousness, as knowing what I am, self-knowledge. Now, in the Vedanta Sara, it says, first we must understand in Vedanta what is meant by knowledge. What do you mean by knowing something? What happens when you know something? Then we will know what is meant by self-knowledge, knowing ourselves. How is it different from ordinary knowledge? What is ordinary knowledge? We are sticking very close to the student's original question. How do I see, hear, smell, taste, touch? Same question is going on. What is ordinary knowledge and what is enlightenment? Special knowledge, knowledge of ourselves. Okay. This is called Vedantic epistemology. Not entirely essential, but it's very fascinating though. Exactly what happens when we experience life, and then how can we relate that to enlightenment, self-realization? What happens when we become enlightened? It goes like this. According to Vedanta, there is pure consciousness, existence, consciousness, bliss, sat, chid, ananda, or pure consciousness, just awareness, bare awareness. Not an awareness produced by the brain, not an awareness in the mind, but awareness, just consciousness itself, which is not an object, but which illumines all objects. So that's there. How does it do that? The answer in Vedanta is that pure consciousness, which is everywhere, is reflected, channeled, or limited. There are three schools of Vedanta which have these three models: reflected, channeled, or limited. Those who study Vedanta, you would have heard of Pratibimbavada, Abhasavada, and Avachedavada. By the mind. And remember, none of this is speculation. Sounds very abstract. No. It's all within our experience. If I ask you, do you feel aware? Do you feel conscious? Yeah. Where do you feel conscious? Here in the body. Make it more precise. Well, more subtle in the mind. What feels conscious, most conscious to us is our own thoughts, feelings, emotions. Our inner life feels most conscious. That's where we find most consciousness, most of awareness. That's where we find the first blooming of awareness. When we wake up from a dream, for example, when we wake up from sleep, in our waking moments, there's the first clear feeling of I'm aware. So awareness is first manifested in the mind. It is, in Vedantic terms, it's the mind which holds the reflection of pure consciousness or limits pure consciousness and then uses it. It channels it to the body and the senses, and then it's channeled into seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. In the mind, it illumines thinking, remembering, desiring, ego, intellect, all of that. All our conscious experiences, it starts with consciousness being reflected in the mind. This reflected consciousness in the mind, which we are all experiencing right now, this is called reflected consciousness, chidabhasa, shadow of consciousness or reflection of consciousness. Think of it like this. My face, if I bring a mirror in front of me, my face will be reflected in the mirror. And it will look pretty much like my face, depending on the mirror. So, yeah, convex mirror, concave mirror will give you different reflections. So the mind actually, this is the theory, that it reflects, sort of quote-unquote, reflects consciousness. You have a pretty good working facsimile of consciousness in the mind right now. Vedanta says that's not real consciousness. You are the real consciousness. What you are seeing, what we feel in the mind as consciousness is like seeing your face in the mirror. And then the pathway to enlightenment is right there. How will you become enlightened? How do you know yourself as pure consciousness? How would you go from the reflection of your face in the mirror to the real face? How would you do that? There's no way of teaching you that inward turn is what is necessary. That you have to do yourself. The last thing that Vedanta can show you is the appearance of consciousness in the mind and then tell you, you are shining on the mind as pure consciousness. Go from that consciousness in the mind back to yourself. Anyway, but that's not our journey. Our journey is outward now. How do we know stuff in the world? We're trying to explain how that equation works. Consciousness plus object is equal to experience. Still trying to answer the original question of the student. So, reflected consciousness in the mind illumines the movements. Now, Vedantic epistemology. The movements in the mind are illumined by the reflected consciousness. You have a thought. 1 + 1 is 2. That's a thought. That's a movement in the mind. In Sanskrit, this is called chitta vritti, a mental modification. And in that mental modification, consciousness is reflected, like a face in the mirror. That reflected consciousness in that mental modification gives you the experience 1 + 1 is equal to 2. When you just think 1 + 1 is equal to 2, there are two parts to it. There is a mental modification and there is a conscious experience. The conscious experience is because of the reflection of consciousness in that mental modification. And the particular form of that experience, what is that particular form? It's a thought, 1 + 1 is 2. That was provided by the mental modification. So in every, now this is the summary of what I'm talking about, all this gibberish, jibber jabber, is every conscious experience has two parts. There's a mental modification and there's a reflected consciousness. A mental modification and a reflected consciousness. Mental modification illumined by that reflected consciousness in that mental modification. It's like the face in the mirror. Every experience is a mental modification. I look at the beautiful flowers there. What happens? The light from those flowers comes into the eyes, and then it sets up electrical impulses racing along the optic nerves to the brain. And from there, nobody knows how. Nobody knows how. From the optic nerves in the brain, it is presented to the mind as a mental modification. In the mind, there is a mental modification, chitta vritti, about what? About, oh, what pretty flowers. That is the mental modification. And the consciousness reflected in that mental modification, oh, what pretty flowers, that illumines it. And then I get the experience, pretty flowers. And this is true of all our experience. If you're reading something, you are working, you are thinking, imagining, suffering, remembering, all of it, what do you call life? All of this is mental modification illumined by reflected consciousness. And to understand this, that is no speculation. Just check in your experience. You will find something happening in the mind. Of course, something happening in the world and the body and the senses, but finally something must happen in the mind. That's the mental experience, mental modification. And it feels like something. It shines. It's revealed. That's the reflected consciousness. Neither of it is you. But this is how knowledge takes place according to Vedanta. This mental modification, for those who are interested, the Sanskrit word is vritti vyapti. The reflected consciousness in that mental modification in Sanskrit word is phala-vyapti. If you translate, it becomes unintelligible gibberish. Pervasion by mental modification, pervasion by reflected consciousness. Put them together, you have knowledge. You have experience. You have knowledge. Now, also explains ignorance. There is consciousness all around. What's behind me, I don't know. Why don't I know this? I don't have any mental modification about it. The moment I look around, there's Vivekananda behind me. Now I have a mental modification. It was immediately illumined by reflected consciousness. In Sanskrit, there was vritti vyapti, pervasion by the mental modification. And there was phala vyapti, pervasion by the reflected consciousness. And I had the experience, here is Vivekananda. This is ordinary knowledge. All our knowledge, whatever we do in life, all of it works like this. This is the claim. This is the Vedantic epistemology of knowledge. Now, what about enlightenment? Remember, here, a table, or those flowers are the object. And I can use the instrument, the eyes, and the mind, and then reflect consciousness on it, and then say, I'm seeing the flowers. But now, what is the object? The consciousness itself. Not the flower, not the eyes, not the mind, not even the mental modification, not even the reflected consciousness. The original consciousness is now the object of my study. When I want self-realization. How do you do that? How do you do that? How can I have realization of my original consciousness? Here is where the eclipse becomes useful. This I heard from a Swami in Kankhal, in Haridwar. I'm still within time. Yes. He said, I'd asked him a question about this enlightenment, something related to this in Vedanta. And he said, that जो सूर्य ग्रहण होता है ना, I didn't understand. What did he mean? And I asked one of the disciples to explain it to me. It is a well-known example in Vedanta. It works like this. At night, the moon illumines the earth. Imagine the earth is this world, and the moon is illumining the world with moonlight. But you know it is sunlight actually. It's a sun's light falling on the moon which illumines. So at night you don't see the sun though. Now the sunlight is illumining the world in darkness. Okay. Now how do you know the world? Well, you use the moon to reflect the sunlight and then illumine the world. Similarly, how do we know the world in Vedanta, in our day-to-day life? You use pure consciousness, reflected from the moon of the mind, focused on this world. This is how we know the world. How do you know it? The technical details, vritti vyapti plus phala vyapti. Pervasion by mental modification plus pervasion by reflected consciousness. Notice, what is the pervasion by mental modification here? It's the moon focused on the earth. And the moon changes its phases. That's why you get different kinds of illumination throughout the phases of the moon. So the focusing of the moon on the earth is important. That's pervasion by the mind. And the reflected consciousness, the sunlight reflected from the moon as moonlight, it illumines whatever the moon is pointing towards. It's like taking a flashlight into a dark room. What do you do when you want to see something in the dark room with a flashlight? You first switch it on, and then you point it towards what you want to see. There is light. It will reveal, but it won't reveal the whole room. It has a narrow beam. So pointing the flashlight is important. That is called pervasion by the mind. And then the light from the flashlight will illumine that object. That is called pervasion by reflected consciousness. So two things are necessary. The mind must orient itself to what you want to know. And then the reflected consciousness will reveal what the mind has oriented itself to. It sounds very fancy. It's as simple as, I want to know what's in this book. What must you do? Well, you must open the book. You must look at it. You must read it. All of that in the service of pervasion by the mind. And the reflected consciousness in the mind will reveal whatever you put into the mind. That's all. Moonlight reveals what's there in the earth. But the moonlight is coming from the sun. Now what's our project? I want to know the sun. How can the moon help me to know the sun? And then the teacher says, solar eclipse. What happens in solar eclipse? Well, the moon comes between the earth and the sun, right? And the disk of the sun is obscured for a while. Two things will happen. One, the earth will pass into darkness for a while. Notice why we are required to turn away from worldly life in spiritual pursuits. Not just monastic life, in meditation, in self-inquiry. Everywhere the mind is turned around into itself. It's like the solar eclipse. In the solar eclipse, the light is no longer being reflected from the moon to the earth at night. What's happening? The moon has come between the sun and the earth. Now what is happening is quite remarkable. The light coming from the sun is now reflected back towards the sun. Right? The moon has come between the sun and the earth. The light coming from the sun no longer comes to the moon and goes to the earth. Rather, it comes to the moon and is reflected back towards the sun. Now let me ask you a question. Is the sun illumined by reflected moonlight? No, that's a ridiculous question. What do you illumine? That which is in darkness. Was the sun ever in darkness? Does the sun require illumination? No. It doesn't require the measly moonlight for its own illumination. One, because it's self-illumined with 1,000 times more light than the moonlight. And not only that, the moonlight is also sunlight. Even if the moon faithfully reflects the light back to the sun, it's not necessary. But what is necessary? The moon must come between the earth and the sun. So this is a good example for illumination. What happens in illumination for enlightenment is self-realization or enlightenment is the mind, to put all this simply, the mind must be thoroughly oriented towards Atman, Brahman, God, whatever you call it. It must be immersed in. Will it know thereby? Will the mind be able to illumine Atman, Brahman, God? Not at all. The moon cannot illumine the sun, need not illumine the sun. What will happen is the moon will be flooded by the already existing sunlight. Similarly, Atman, Brahman, our real nature, pure consciousness, is already continuously shining and revealing itself. It's just when the mind is properly oriented towards it, then something remarkable occurs. You realize the light is realized by itself. The sun realizes itself as light. There's no other way of putting it. Sri Ramakrishna says, Bodhe Bodhkara, consciousness realizing itself as consciousness. Pure consciousness realizing itself as consciousness. Did the mind play a role or not? Did the moon play a role or not? Yes and no. What was done? What role does the mind play? The precise answer. The mental modification of the mind is necessary. What is not necessary? The reflected consciousness is not necessary. Or in our technical language, vritti vyapti is necessary, phala vyapti is not necessary. Pervasion by mental modification is necessary. Pervasion by reflected consciousness is not necessary for self-realization. Because you are unlimited consciousness yourself. You don't need to reflect consciousness back from the moon towards yourself to realize, oh, I am consciousness. No. How do you orient the mind towards yourself? Vedanta, Upanishads, Gita, the Drigdrishya Viveka, the method of the seer and the seen, the Panchakosha Viveka, the method of the 5 layers of the human personality, the Avasthatraya Viveka, the 3 states of waking, dreaming and sleeping, the analysis. These are all ways of vritti vyapti, of pervading the mind, focusing the mind on Brahman through this analysis. And this analysis will not reveal Atman or Brahman. That is already self-revealed. So when the illumination comes, pervasion by the mind is necessary, pervasion by reflected consciousness not necessary. This is the Vedantic epistemology of enlightenment. This also explains the 2 Upanishadic statements. By the mind it cannot be known, by the mind it can be known. By the mind alone it can be known. It cannot be known because the reflected consciousness in the mind is not necessary, is meaningless for self-realization. It can be known because mental modification is necessary. The mind must be focused on God, on Atman, Brahman, whatever you call it. Mind is necessary. That's why complete dedication of the mind in spiritual life is absolutely necessary. The complete inward turning away, the solar eclipse of let the world pass into darkness for a short while. Then the sun will realize itself as the sun. This is called in Vedanta Brahmakara Vritti. This is a technical term. That flower, when I know the flower, this is called flower akara vritti, a mental modification with the content of the flower. Brahmakara vritti, mental modification with the content focused on Brahman. How do you get it? Through Vedanta. Supported by meditation, by devotion, by all sorts of spiritual practices. That's all that we are trying to generate in the mind. So the mind can know Brahman and cannot know Brahman in these 2 very precise senses. It's not being mysterious or vague. A very clear philosophical sense in which the mind can know Brahman. I have not come across anywhere that enlightenment is so precisely analyzed as in Vedanta. This is extraordinary. How close they get. You can't say any more. This is the closest that you can get. The whole thing can be deceptive. This is what I'll go and end. The teacher says to the student, so, are you enlightened now? Student thinks, yup, I'm enlightened. Yadi manyase suvedeti dharam evapi nunam tvam vetha brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya deveshvatanu mimamsyam evate manye viditam. Second chapter of Kena Upanishad starts. You think you are enlightened? Student says, yep, I am enlightened. I got it. Teacher says, if you think you are enlightened, there's very little that you know. Maybe you know something. There's very little that you know about Brahman in yourself or in the cosmos. What should I do then? He uses a very ancient word, mimamsyam evate. Try again. Mimamsa, the word mimamsa means, there's a Sanskrit meaning is pujita vichara, a reverential inquiry. Very interesting combination, reverence and inquiry. So this, try the reverential inquiry once again. And the student does it. He goes through the whole process of thinking, analyzing. Now, are you enlightened? See, this is a trap. It's a quiz that the teacher has set up to see whether the student is, did the teaching take. In Hindi, they use almost same terms. Theek theek baitha hai Mahatma ji. Has it, is the teaching, did it sit well in your mind? If you say yes, you're in trouble. If you say no, you're in trouble. Why? Because the teacher said, it is other than the known. So if you say that, yes, I know it, then you don't know it. Whatever you know is not Brahman, it's not Atman. And if suppose you say, I don't know it, then the whole teaching has failed. The point was to realize Brahman, right? So the teacher has failed, the school has failed, the whole thing is flunked. Now what does the student do? You can't say, yes, I know Brahman. You can't say, no, I know. You can't say, yes, I'm enlightened. You can't say, no, I'm not enlightened. What does the student do? So he says, mimamsyam evate, do the inquiry once again. Student says, done. Now, are you enlightened? Manye viditam. I think I'm enlightened. Yeah, I am. And you can see the teacher, you can literally see the teacher rolling his eyes. What do I do with this guy? I told you, before he could say anything, the student says, wait. The student is even better than, above the teacher, one step ahead of the teacher. He says, wait. Let me explain. Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yonas tad veda no na vedeti vedacha. Look at the language, the rhythm of it. He says, I don't say that I know Brahman. Ah, so you're ignorant. But I'm not ignorant. Ah, so you know Brahman. But I don't know either. And those amongst us, everybody looks puzzled. The teacher's face lights up. But everybody else looks puzzled. What is he going on about? What is the two of them? What are they going on about? And the student says, those amongst us who understand what I've just said, that I know it and I don't know it. But it's not that I do not know it either. They have truly understood. And the teacher says, wonderful, here is the best student. Summa cum laude is graduated. All the others are puzzled. What happened? You can imagine the student throwing his cap in the air and becoming enlightened. And then the teacher explains to the others. He says, okay, this is for the dummies who didn't get it. Here's the explanation. What happened? Yasya matam tasya matam yasya na vedasa avijñātam vijānatam vijñātam avijānatam. Those who say, I do not know it, they truly know it. And those who say, I know it, they do not truly know it. For it is known to those who do not know and it is unknown to those who know. I'm sure it's clear now. What the teacher is saying is this. The student has beautifully replied to the teacher using the teacher's own teaching. When the student says, it is not that I know, but it's not that I do not know, what is he saying? It is other than the known, it's other than the unknown. What the teacher started with, the original instruction. That has been, it's coming back from the student now in the student's own words, in the student's own experience. If you had literally quoted the teacher back to the teacher, that's no great credit. You can write it down and quote it back. In fact, there's a story which I like. Wittgenstein, the great philosopher, maybe the greatest philosopher of the 20th century, is teaching in Cambridge University. And he had this habit of telling, he would stand and do philosophy in front of the students. It's not that he was teaching from a textbook. He would think, and that what he thought, he would say, and that became philosophy. That's the philosophy today we have in Western analytic philosophy. And he had this habit of telling, if you say that, Professor, this is what you said, he would say, no, I never said that. Now, this can be exasperating for the students. So one of the students, they all went on to become big philosophers later on. One of the students wrote down what Wittgenstein said, exactly. And the next class says, Professor, you said this. And as usual, Wittgenstein said, no, I did not say this. But you did. This is exactly what you said. These are the words. And Wittgenstein said, but you do not mean by those words what I meant by those words. Because you don't see. I know you're repeating the same words back, but you don't see what I meant. Yes. There's this wonderful Wittgenstein teacher at Harvard University, Goldberg. Forgetting his... Goldfarb, sorry. Goldfarb. He's the senior most professor. He's been at Harvard for 50 years. And he teaches Wittgenstein. I used to sit in his class, and he would tell the students, all this digital stuff, case studies, computers, laptops, all is fine. He said, come to class. I will talk. Listen. Not only listen, look at me when I talk. Because what I'm talking about is so subtle that the body language of the teacher, the tone of the voice, the expression in the face, the look in the eyes, all of it is... He didn't say all this I'm adding. He said, look at me, listen to me, look at me, watch me when I talk. Then you will get it. So the teacher says, see, it is not known as an object, but it is known as the very consciousness which knows all objects. So in every experience, it is known, but never as an object of that experience. That is what is being said here. He is correcting, he is making it more precise, our understanding, as precise as can be said. Now, the last thing I will say and stop. The next line is even more dramatic. Notice what has been going on till now. It's becoming more and more subtle. It's going into stratospheric levels. Ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind, other than the known, other than the unknown, cannot be revealed by speech, cannot be revealed by senses, cannot be thought of by the mind. If you know it, you do not know it. If you know it and do not know it, you know it. By the way, when you say if you do not know it, you know it, it means only the advanced Vedanta student who, after studying all of Vedanta, gets it absolutely clear and says, yes, it is not an object of knowledge. That's what is meant by, if you do not know it, you know it. You can't go out on the street there and stop traffic and say, do you know Brahman? And you say, no. Enlightened one, yes. No. When he says, I don't know, he just doesn't know, that's all. It means a person who's fully studied, mastered Vedanta and has got absolute clarity, that one will say, I do not know in the sense of, technical sense of knowledge, vritti vyapti phala vyapti, in that sense. It's not something that I know as seen, heard, smelt, tasted, touched, thought of, understood, remembered, desired, hated, enjoyed, suffered. Not in that sense. But in all of these experiences, it is available as the very consciousness which is experiencing all of these. That is what is meant here. As the knower of all things, but never the known in that sense. Now, so far it's been going on like this. Other than the known, other than the unknown. If you know it, you don't know it. If you do not know it, you know it. I remember Nisargadatta, that famous, a great non-dualist who lived in the mid-20th century in Mumbai. So somebody said to him, "You are a knower of Brahman." He became angry. He was a rough guy. He said, of course, all this anger for these people is a way of teaching others. He said, "No, you are insulting me. You're a knower of Brahman. How is it an insult? It's the greatest praise we can give in our civilization. Brahmagyani ho aap. You're a knower of Brahman." He said, "No, I am not a knower of Brahman. I am Brahman." Yeah, you see? That's what we all should say. If you know Brahman, Upanishad teacher says you don't know. All right. Very abstract. Now look at the drama of it, the very next statement. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate. I'll stop here. What is full enlightenment? He says, when Brahman is known in every experience, then you're fully enlightened. In every seeing, in every hearing, in every smelling, tasting, touching, in enjoying, in suffering, in pain and in pleasure, everywhere Brahman shines forth. This is full enlightenment. Choicelessly, effortlessly, without practice, you cannot stop it. You cannot, having seen, you cannot unsee anymore. Having walked through this door, you cannot walk back through it anymore. There are no backseas here. So, pratibodha viditam matam, in every experience, Brahman is revealed. Whatever you see by moonlight, remember it is sunlight. You are experiencing sunlight. What is seeing by moonlight? Our worldly experience. The world seen at night. This sun is nowhere in sight. And yet it is all illumined by sunlight, even though it's being reflected from the moon. Even though it seems like just seeing, hearing, tasting, talking, remembering, enjoying, desiring, hurting, suffering. It is all limitless consciousness, Brahman, Atman, pratibodha viditam matam. When you say in every experience, Brahman is absolutely clear to me, I cannot see otherwise. I cannot say otherwise, that Brahman is not clear, unknown to me. No, it is most obvious to me, it's most evident to me. Then only enlightenment is full. It is the highest peak of enlightenment. It is fully done now. Then what will happen? Amritatvam hi vindate. Then one attains to immortality, which is already your own nature. You know that you are immortal. You always were, and you will continue to be so. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you for the patient hearing. Thank you so much. I think we have people from the overflow room. Yes, please come on in. There are a lot of people waiting patiently in the other room who are watching on the screen. They'll join us now. And we'll have Q&A. So if you have questions, observations, how will we do this? We'll come to you here. Please tell us your name and ask the question. Yeah.
My name is Swami Sarvapriyananda. I'm a disciple here. My question is, what are maybe one or two maybe simple or concrete steps that we can start doing right now to understand our consciousness?
To understand, we've already taken more than one step. The very fact that we are here and we have heard, hopefully. There's one Swami who used to joke, you are here, but you do not hear. So the first step is Shravana, is to hear. And then try to understand that. And after that, Manana and Nididhyasana, which is questioning, arguing, reasoning. And then once you get clarity, to stay with that in Vedantic meditation. But the journey starts long before that. it starts with something called viveka, a discernment, that there is some ultimate truth in life. What the religions of the world speak about in different language, whether it's Brahman or Allah or God or Tao or whatever it is they talk about, Buddha nature, there is some deep solution to the human question, some spiritual solution. If we come to this discernment, you can use the word discrimination, discernment is a better word, viveka, to separate two things which appear to be mixed up. In life, the pleasant and the good come mixed up to us. And it requires wisdom to separate the two in our own minds. This is good, this may be pleasant, but ultimately it's not good for me. This is good for me, it will take me higher, make my life better. This ability to distinguish these two, that's where spiritual life starts. Otherwise, what the world presents, we grasp it, whether it's pleasant or suffering. But to distinguish in that pleasant and unpleasant, that's some ultimate spiritual value, philosophical value, whatever you call it. That's the beginning of spiritual life. There's the beginning of philosophy also. Then comes the second step in spiritual life, vairagya. Very important in Vedanta, that if I've distinguished the good from the pleasant, a dispassion from the pleasant and a pursuit of the good. This is vairagya. So no longer will pleasure seeking, money making, power seeking, achievements in the world, no longer will they be my central concern. They will still be your concern. Because that's the world, that's the battlefield you're put in. That's the world you inhabit. So they'll still be your concern, but you'll spiritualize it. My concern now is enlightenment, is God realization, self-realization. So this is called vairagya. Then a disciplined life. Finally, an intensification of the spiritual life called mumukshutvam. So these are called fourfold qualifications. That's where Vedanta begins. A discernment. And we already don't think it's a tall order because we already have that discernment. Most of us here have been spiritual seekers for years and years. Most of us. So we already have that discernment. You may not be, some of us may not be walking on the path of Vedanta, but in devotion, in some mystical, spiritual tradition, some religion of the world, that was Sri Ramakrishna's extraordinary insight, that the ultimate reality is infinite, and the paths to that reality are also infinite. So whatever path you take, these are well-trodden ways. Thousands of years and thousands of people have attained to deliverance and liberation over the centuries and millennia in human history. So then you start walking on that way. So this is called viveka. Yes. Yeah.
Swami, it feels like questions arise in my mind, but then I listen to you and it feels like I have the answer.
Yes. Tell us.
Then again it comes back.
Yeah. Tell us your name and ask the question. Yeah.
My name is Sonal, and the question that has been arising again and again since last evening is, from what you have shared, it feels like to get the concept of consciousness, we need to go beyond the function of brain. But then, how do we differentiate between the function of brain and consciousness while still having the brain, and that is where we are operating from?
Yes. Notice, we are all operating from consciousness, not operating from the brain. Who told you you're operating from the brain? That's what you read in a book. That's what medical science seems to tell you. But right now, when you're talking to me, is the brain anywhere in your experience? Right now, what's going on? You're looking at me. You're thinking. And you have sight and sound and temperature and sensory experiences, some emotional content might be there. All of it together is what you call your conscious experience. The brain is nowhere inside. Why are you saying you're operating from the brain?
Is it not the function of brain though?
But who told you that? You see, right now, we are having a conscious experience. That much is clear. Now you're saying one more thing. Yes, but that's the brain. How do you know? You say, isn't it obvious? No, it isn't. That's where consciousness studies is stuck right now. The inability to connect consciousness to the brain. Inability to explain consciousness with the help of the brain. That is called the hard problem of consciousness. Please Google it and see. It's a huge, huge issue. If you were able to explain consciousness with the help of the brain, all right, if you were able to do that, you wouldn't have 325 theories. You would have only one theory, brain theory of consciousness. You don't have 325 theories of the kidney. You don't have 320 theories of the liver or... no. But you have 325 theories of consciousness. Why? Because you are unable to explain. We are unable to explain consciousness with the help of the brain. This is called the hard problem of consciousness. David Chalmers coined this. So this is the big issue in consciousness studies.
What do we do then?
You go through this analysis which we just talked about. Stick with experience, not with theory. What is your experience? Conscious experience. What is our experience? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, working, speaking. This is our experience. This is not theory, this is experience. Brain is producing all of this is theory. And it has to be justified. Is it there at all? Is this true? So that is the huge place where consciousness studies is stuck now. Yes. Notice the question asked by the the student. He didn't ask, how is brain doing all this? No. He asked, I am seeing, hearing, I am thinking, I am speaking. How is it all happening?
Hello, Swami. My name is Shayuri.
Yes.
The question that I have has been going on in my head for a few years now. That is, I completely agree with what you were saying today. I do not have any knowledge to not agree with that, basically. So if we have to look for God realization and we go through self-realization and we turn inwards, that's fine with me. Then when we pray, we should pray to ourselves. Why should we even have a concept of Kali, Durga, Saraswati, Lakshmi, all the temples in India and all those things? Why do we even need any of that?
Well, that's true. Why? Notice in all this analysis since the morning till now, God didn't make an appearance. Prayer didn't make an appearance. It was all inquiry. And inquiry into what? Inquiry into ourselves. What did Sri Ramakrishna say? Go back to the beginning of the talk. When you know yourself, you know God. If you say there's an ultimate reality, I call it Shiva or Kali. Now, how do you know that? One way, the grand way, the royal way, is by knowing yourself. By knowing, when I know myself, I will realize Brahman. This is the Vedantic way. But there can be another way. There can be other ways. We had talked about only one way today. There can be other ways. The other way is, I don't want to get into all this. What is consciousness? What is seeing, hearing? Who cares? I love my mother Kali and I shall worship Kali, I shall surrender to her, I shall pray to her, let her reveal herself to me. Or it could be Shiva, it could be God, it could be Allah. That is the way of devotion. Notice one thing you did not do in the way of devotion. You did not turn this light upon yourself and say, who am I? You don't do that in the way of devotion. So don't mix up these two. These are all, both will work. If you inquire into yourself, you will find God. If you inquire about God, you will find yourself. There's the Islamic mystic who said beautifully, when I searched for Allah, I found myself. When I searched for myself, I found Allah. How beautifully it said, see? Same thing.
But isn't it like putting on training wheels and then not taking the training wheels off?
So is it like, which one? The search for God?
The devotion.
It could be, but it need not be. That's why Sri Ramakrishna said that He is infinite, the Lord is infinite, and the paths to the Lord are also infinite. So when you reach the Lord through the devotional path, it's not some lower grade of Brahman, and through Kena Upanishad and Vedanta you reach, and Advaita Vedanta you reach Brahman plus upgraded. Chat GPT 5. Not like that. It is the same reality. It is the elephant which we have touched. One person is saying the elephant is like a pillar who has touched the leg of the elephant. Another person says elephant like a pipe who has touched the trunk of the elephant. Elephant like a fan who has touched the ear of the elephant. Elephant is like a rope who has touched the tail of the elephant. That must be one irritated elephant. None of them can say that, oh, this is just training wheels, only that guy has really touched it. You have all touched the elephant. That is the beauty of Sri Ramakrishna. If you have approached it through devotion, it's not that now just you have put us in trouble, you have prolonged the path. I have to finish my devotional exercises, now I have to come to Kena Upanishad, listen to all those YouTube talks, then I'll be enlightened. Not necessary. Not at all necessary. If you can turn the searchlight upon yourself, the path of knowledge. If you turn the searchlight on God, the path of devotion. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Swami. My name is Utkarsh.
Yes.
And my question was basically like we also have karma theory, Vedanta believes in it. And we also, like, it's generally heard that, like, follow vairagya, dispassion, or like lower your indulgence with Maya and things like that. So I find myself in this conflict sometimes that indulging lesser with Maya, for trying to follow dispassion or vairagya. I'm also not being able to do my dharma properly of being like maybe a husband, possibly a parent in future, or like the kind of fulfilling life that my relatives want from me. So how do enlightenment almost feels like following a selfish motive at that person.
There is no conflict here. True selfishness is when I live an indulgent life. What is true selfishness? I, me, myself. I don't care about anything or anybody else. It can go to an extreme level where one becomes an addict. One is living for the next drink or drug dose or whatever it is. My own pleasure. That is the most indulgent kind of life, the most selfish kind of life. One comes out of there by rising to the higher possibilities in life. Oh, it's not just pleasure. I can do great stuff in this world. Maybe I can be a millionaire. Maybe I can have a startup. Maybe I can get a PhD degree. Maybe I can do this or that. Achievement, power, status, wealth, that pulls you out of your narrow indulgent life. And it allows us to manifest our powers. My intelligence, my ability to work hard, my empathy, it requires all of that to engage with the world and achieve something. And consistency, holding on to it for months and years, it builds character when you are actually pursuing wealth and power. But the pursuit of wealth, power, pleasure without ethics, it can ruin a person. It will ruin. So, the higher than this is the pursuit of being good. All of us, we want to be, as you said, I want to be a good parent, a good husband, fulfill my role. What is that impulse? I want to be a good person in my own eyes. So that is the higher than wealth or power or pleasure. So the first one is kama. Higher than that, artha. But this artha, even higher than that, is dharma, a moral life. That's why always in India, in Hinduism, we always say, we don't say kama, artha, dharma. We say dharma, artha, kama. So on the basis of morality, of ethics, I pursue my worldly goals. And that is not contradictory to spiritual life. With spiritual life, the path lies through that. When in this pursuit I begin to see this also cannot lead to ultimate fulfillment. This also has an end. This also is limited. Then we look for something vaster, which is spirituality, which is God realization, which is enlightenment, which was the topic today. That is called in this scheme, it is called moksha. I start searching for moksha. Then I go to a higher level of life, which is a mumukshu, a spiritual seeker. The mumukshu, the spiritual seeker, is not self-indulgent. In fact, earlier self-indulgent, then self-activated by the pursuit of wealth or power, then motivated by, we realize I should be motivated by ethics. Still pursuing my own goals, but an ethical life. Now, no longer my own goals. It is for the welfare of all beings. So you have expanded further. Beyond that also there is a stage which is called Siddha, enlightened one, who does not want any of these. Shankaracharya sings, na dharmo na chartho na kamo na moksha chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. When you realize that you are that limitless consciousness, then these four goals are no longer they do not pertain to you. So this is the journey from selfish life to an awareness of achieving good and great things in life, to a good life, a noble life, a purposeful life, doing your duty, and as you said, dharma. Beyond that to spiritual life. In that spiritual life, you don't abandon your dharma, you spiritualize that dharma. So no longer is I'm doing this because I have to be a husband, a father, a good employee. No. I am seeking God. And therefore, how do I behave with my wife, my children, my co-workers, my boss, with society and community? All of that will be guided by one light, that I am a God seeker. I am an enlightenment seeker. Yeah.
Thank you, Swami. My name is Oliver.
Yes.
From a non-dualist lens, we say that Brahman is unaffected by us.
Yes.
The sun is unaffected by the moon. And from a dualist lens, we say God is love. And as Vedantins, from a practical lens, we have to study both. We learn both. And so how do we consolidate them?
Yeah, consolidation is one word, oneness.
My question was, how can God be both a source of grace and mercy and an unaffected, static entity?
Yeah. Because it is unaffected, but not static. God is beyond static and dynamic. That which is static and that which is dynamic, look at your own life. Deep sleep seems to be a static state. Waking and dreaming seem to be dynamic states. But what are you? Are you static or dynamic? You are that which manifests as both dynamic and static. You are the ground of both. Just like that, God at a cosmic scale is the ground of all activity and all stillness also. All dynamism and all static, unchanging nature also. In that sense, God is unaffected by anything. And because that God is unaffected, then only God can be a source of grace and mercy. If God is affected, damaged, destroyed, traumatized, what mercy or grace can you expect from such a God? If God is polluted, if God dies, what good is such a God? Just like us. Maybe just an expanded version of us. God is not of much good to us. Maybe a great power, that's all. But God is not absolute, is absolute only when God is utterly unaffected. Unaffected means don't care. You can truly care when you yourself are also greater than the situation. You can help. Yes.
Pranam Swamiji, my name is Anirudh. You talked about mental modifications and then reflected consciousness.
Yes.
What impels us to act? Free will. Where does that figure, Swamiji?
And that comes from our own samskaras and desires. Our pursuit of pleasure, our pursuit of goodness, our pursuit of achievement, all of those things impel us to act. But you'll say, why are they there at all? They are there because of an ultimate ignorance. We do not know ourselves to be complete, Purnam. That's why we feel a lack. Yeah. So your talk on Lacan, on lack and Lacan, she gave a talk once in Seattle. We feel a lack and we seek to fill up that lack with pleasure and achievement and knowledge and doing stuff to become more complete. It will never work that way, but we are impelled to act because of that. Ultimately, this impulse to action will take us Godward, towards spirituality, because it's taking us to infinity, to our real nature. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. My name is Lakshmi. My question is about, I would like to reconcile the discussion on consciousness where you were saying consciousness is not anything that can be described by an object. So it's not the table, it's not my hand. And how do I reconcile that with Prajnanam Brahman, that everything is Brahman?
Prajnanam Brahman means consciousness is Brahman, not everything is Brahman. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman, everything is surely Brahman. That's what you are referring to. Yes, here is the crucial thing. I said consciousness is distinct from everything. Consciousness is not a table, not my hand, not the breath, not my thought, not even thoughts. Consciousness is distinct from all of these, physical and mental. But I never said these things are distinct from consciousness. What do I mean by that? Water is distinct in the ocean out there. The water is distinct from all the waves and bubbles and surf. Because water can be water in a glass here. Water can be water in the water vapor, in the sky, in the clouds. It doesn't have to be a wave. But the waves are not distinct from water. They can't exist without water. Similarly, Brahman is Satchidanand. It's not a pot or a cloth or a building or a man or a woman. It is pure being. But the man and the woman and the building and the sky and all of this, they are not distinct from Brahman. They are Brahman. So, you are, as consciousness, you are distinct and free of everything. But everything is not free of you. Everything depends on you. You are the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. And by yourself, you are free of the eye and the ear of the mind. But the eye and the ear and the mind cannot work without you. They depend on you. Yeah. They cannot not only work without you, they cannot be revealed without you, they do not have existence without you.
Maharaj, my name is Partha Rai. I'm trying to understand the example that you gave of the lunar
eclipse. The solar eclipse, yes.
Okay, so what I understand is that we can change our mind to bring about that lunar eclipse, but we should not change. We should not reflect the light that goes back to the sun.
You don't need to.
Yeah, that is not needed. But then it becomes the consciousness in the worldly consciousness.
Yes,
So all we can do is change our mind. And
that is the whole thing. When people say in spiritual life again and again, always think about God, take the name of God, keep your mind on God.
Change
That's
your
what
mind. Change your mind.
Keeping the mind immersed in Vedanta.
Yeah, and don't try to see the effect, don't try to judge or measure the effect.
It will appear by itself.
By itself. That's all. Thank you.
It's just a fancy way of saying what we have all been reading about all the time. All the masters, all the teachers keep saying, repeat your mantra, think about God, pray to God, keep your mind on God, hold on to God. That, the Vedanta Sara is saying, Vedantic epistemology is vritti vyapti, pervasion by the mind. That's all. Yes.
Pranam Swamiji, my name is Shikha, and I first of all want to offer my heartfelt gratitude to you for all your teaching and guidance. My question is related to Pratibodh Viditam Matam, where, as you said, it means Brahman is known in every cognition.
Yes.
So the question is like, who actually knows this knowing? As in, is there a final leap that has to be made at some point where even the witness dissolves and we are completely, that solar eclipse happens where it's just the sun?
Yes, there is a final leap, there is no doubt about it. Between the reflected face and your real face. If I tell you, that face you are seeing in the mirror is not your real face. Your real face you do not see. What you see is a reflection. So now if you ask, but what is my real face? Well, you have to go from the reflection this way. That's understandable in case of a mirror and a face. But in case of reflected consciousness and pure consciousness, what do you mean? That you have to grasp yourself. Vedanta can't help you there. That turn like this. A Swami told me once, an aquarium. In aquarium you have seen the fish, they swim like this. And they come to the end of the aquarium, what do? They swim like this and then suddenly they flip around. Then they start swimming this way again. So I still remember, one Swami pointed, look, it's going like this, and comes to the end of the aquarium, it flips around, and then it starts swimming that way. That flipping around is exactly what you must do. At that time I didn't understand. What does he mean? It means this one. That dramatic turn towards yourself, inwardness. It is for that only all meditation, devotion, renunciation, everything is an inward turn. Once you grasp it, then you don't have to do the inward turn. Then you are free wherever you are. You're looking at the world, you are free. Pratibodha Viditam Matam. Working, you are free. Meditating, you are free. Driving, playing, you are free. Enjoying in the world, you are free. Suffering in the world, you are free. In life, you are free. In death, you are free. Once you see that.
So that final turn comes with grace, Swamiji? As
You can call it grace. In the Kathopanishad, it is called grace. I think it's Kathopanishad. Yeah. It's Kathopanishad. Yes. Yama Vinishe, Tenesha Vivrunite Tanum Swam. Whoever it chooses to it reveals itself. Who will realize God? And the Upanishad says, to whomever it chooses, it reveals itself. Now in a dualistic sense, this is very easy to interpret. See, here is God's grace. Whomever God chooses, God reveals himself or herself or itself to me. But in non-dualist terms, what does it mean? Because you are yourself that. Whom will it choose? And then the commentator Shankaracharya says, whom will it choose then? It will choose the one who chooses it. You have to choose Atman or Brahman. How do you choose? Vritti Bhakti. Again, keep the mind there. Ask and you shall receive. Knock and it shall be opened. In the New Testament it's there, Bible. Yeah.
Namaste Swamiji, I'm Oyon. Firstly, thank you for all your teachings. It has been really, I'm very blessed to be here in your presence today. I have written down this question so that I can articulate it properly. So I'm an AI researcher, and the next paradigm of AI, there is a famous paper by Richard Sutton, who's a Google researcher, speaking about the era of experience and how we need to simulate experiences to truly reach the next paradigm of, ChatGPT. So my question is, considering the equation of object plus consciousness is experience, and assuming that living beings living beings possess consciousness, sorry if that's not an articulate term, but different living beings experience different objects and they have different experiences, but consciousness is constant. Can you comment on how we can basically, I have a German Shepherd dog, his experience and the objects that he kind of sees or experiences, how can we basically collectively understand or improve our understanding of consciousness through others, what they experience and the objects that they have in their lives?
That's what is being done in consciousness studies. Why just a German Shepherd dog? They are most interested, I see consciousness studies experts are most interested in octopus for some reason. Because it's a kind of distributed consciousness. The arms have lots of, the 8 arms, they have lots of neurons, so I think, so they have a distributed brain. It's very fascinating. You know what I find annoying in this approach? Science means studying the data. The data of consciousness is continuously available to you directly, to each one of us. So consciousness is available to me, but I will not study it. I will study the octopus. Why? There's a good reason why. Because this is the blindness of the scientific method. The scientific method is don't be subjective, be objective, study an object. Now when it comes to consciousness, which is the very heart of the subject, how will you study it? Find it in some object. In the octopus, then study the octopus. Now, not that you cannot learn anything by that. You can. That is the way it's going on. But Vedanta is just the opposite. Go directly to consciousness. Some little while ago, someone said, let's study the brain. Why should I ignore the brain? But Vedanta says, go to consciousness directly. Consciousness is continuously available to us all the time. Are you not conscious now? And where are you conscious? In your seeing, you're conscious. In your listening, you're conscious. In your enjoying, you're suffering, you're thinking. This is where we are all conscious. The datum of consciousness is continuously all the time available to us, and it is the only thing that is available to you. There's nothing else that's available to you. And we'll ignore all that and then pick up an octopus and then bother the poor fellow. You can learn something that way, but that's not Vedanta's perspective. Go directly to the problem, the heart of this is one problem which is directly available to all of us. If you talk about black holes or superstrings, it's not available, it's very esoteric, not directly available to us. But consciousness is directly available to every one of us. Yes.
Pranam Swamiji, my name is Parag. So I have 2 related questions. So they say that the machines are lacking the first person experience. First person experience or ego.
They say means I say.
Yes.
So many people who are skeptical about consciousness in AI, they will say that
yes.
they lack first person.
So they lack first person experience or ego, because of which they may not be conscious. But first person experience or ego, is it not really stopping us or from knowing our true nature, first thing? And then second thing is...
Wait, we will go to second thing. Is the ego stopping us from knowing our true nature? Not necessarily. What is stopping us from knowing our true nature is ignorance. And the ego can be very helpful in overcoming ignorance. The ego can bring you to Vedanta retreat. The ego can make you ask a question. The ego can drive you to look for answers. The ego is, see, it is what is called, Sri Ramakrishna says, the ripe ego and the unripe ego. The unripe ego is involved in samsara. And the ripe ego is the one which cultivates discipline and virtue and looks for spiritual solutions. So the ego can be of help.
But this ignorance is stopping us from knowing us our true
Yes.
nature. Why every being who is born, by default, borns with ignorance? Why
Yes,
we are
wait, stop right there. Very beautifully said. You may not know, you are actually quoting Shankaracharya. In Adhyasa Bhashya, Shankaracharya's master work is his introductory essay to his commentary on the Brahma Sutras. It is called Adhyasa Bhashya, the commentary on superimposition, Adhyasa. There he says, Naisargikoyam loka vyavaharaha. All our life is naturally beset by ignorance. You may say, why is all life beset by ignorance, if you ask? No, it's opposite. There is life because of ignorance. Because we do not know our real nature, we are born again and again and again. This whole, it's the engine which drives this entire universe towards self-realization. The moment, notice what happens when you get self-realization. When this particular body goes, you will not be born again. That's the end of this limited life. What is this limited life? It's like being in a cage. So our journey, our life is basically a journey from a zoo to a zoo to a zoo. Thrown into this cage dies, and thrown into another cage, then into another cage. We want freedom from this. We want to be absolutely free and realize our infinite nature, not this caged nature. That is enlightenment, that is freedom. Until that time, it's because of ignorance we are having this. Why are you going from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3? Search for knowledge. But why? Behind that is ignorance. Because we don't know. If you knew all that, then you wouldn't have to go. You would have gone from grade 1 to university straight away. But because we don't know, we are being propelled to have various experiences.
It seems like I have to take efforts to really know myself. Why
Oh,
it will
yes,
not
yes.
just come easily?
It will
on
not
my-
come. Shankaracharya makes that point. To remove ignorance takes effort. Ignorance takes no effort at all. To remove ignorance takes effort. That's why you need to go to school. Yeah? To remove ignorance, we need school. We need society. We need parents. We need teachers. We need all of information from society which removes our ignorance. That requires effort. If you don't put in that effort, one will remain in a natural state of ignorance. And that is not very good.
Thank you, Swami. My name is Vikram.
Yes.
So you want to get a little bit of clarification on two terms you mentioned was vritti vyapti and phala vyapti.
Phala vyapti, yes.
So basically, I guess if you were to define like enlightenment in a classroom setting, you can kind of have clarity on it, and you said that the phala vyapti is not actually needed.
Not
right?
needed, exactly.
My
but
question
vritti vyapti is needed.
But my question is, like when you're out in the world, and let's say you have a moment where you feel like, okay, I've got a moment of clarity, but then you're back in the world, and then you're seeing the results, the reflected consciousness, and then you get confused again, let's say, over and over again.
Yeah.
So my question is true enlightenment then, though, is it the fall is not needed, but it doesn't, or is it that it doesn't confuse you anymore, so that you can?
You're right.
So
well
that
put.
you can go through it without getting confused, kind of again and again.
Yes.
And so
You're
my
right.
question then is.
No, let me finish, answer that.
Yeah.
The true insight, you will never get confused again.
Yeah.
After that, it takes no effort at all. Just as you are Vikram right now, you don't need to put in morning and evening Vikram meditation to remain as Vikram. Like let me shore up my Vikram identity with a little bit of Vikram mantra and Vikram meditation. No, it's effortless for you. Similarly to the enlightened one who realizes, I am pure consciousness, I am Brahman, it's effortless. It's not even a choice. You can't, that one can't do otherwise. So you will never get confused. After that, the reflected consciousness will come back and work, mind, body, everything will appear. But it will all be an appearance in one unlimited Brahman. It's like looking at the waves. Once you realize what water is, after that the waves are still there. But they are all nothing other than that water. And you realize everything speaks to you of Brahman then. It is all around us then. It is us.
So my follow-up to that is it reasonable to assume then that it's possible to basically, in a certain sense, make no cognitive errors and therefore have an experience where you're never agitated because of any cognitive errors that you're making?
No, you can still make cognitive errors. After that, suppose you want to know, you want to design ChatGPT 6 after that. You still have to put in the work. Within the realm of appearance, everything will operate exactly as before. After that, you want to have a snack. It's not that Brahman will suddenly appear to you as a snack. You'll have to make the snack for yourself, and you will realize that everything is Brahman. That knowledge is always clear. But the world of vyavahara, transactions, will remain exactly the same. If it turned the world of transactions upside down, I would be suspicious. And that's dualistic religion, a God who intervenes. If it makes only a deep difference in our perception of the worldview of ourselves and the world, that is enlightenment. In Hindi, they say, in India, the sadhus say, Gyan koi tod phod nahi karta hai, Mahatma ji. Knowledge does not damage anything. Knowledge leaves everything as it is, but everything is utterly different also for you. Now you realize it's one existence, consciousness place. But it will not change things in the world to your advantage or disadvantage. It will remain that way.
Okay. Well, I'm Uma. Thank you, Swamiji, for a beautiful, inspiring talk. So my question is, or I'm looking for recommendations on daily spiritual practice, something on the cushion and something while I'm working, because I feel like I can touch the truth momentarily, but then it's kind of hard to hold on to it. So something that would kind of help me hold on to it and move me closer to
We are
realization.
already spiritual seekers and practitioners, just about everyone here. So I'm sure we are already doing something. And Vivekananda says, broadly, there are 4 things that we can do to accelerate this process of enlightenment and freedom. One is a yoga of knowledge. One is a yoga of meditation. Another is a yoga of devotion. And another is yoga of action. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, and jnana yoga. What we were speaking of all along today was jnana yoga. So these 4 have to be combined in harmony. We are already combining them. We all do stuff in the world. We all have feelings, love, devotion in our hearts. And we all have a mind. And we're seeking knowledge. We all have an identity. The 4 yogas impact on these 4 areas. So we work on each one of them. Somebody said, can you give me these 4 yogas without any religious reference, just secular terms? And that also you're limited to 1 word each. just 1 phrase each. I thought about it. I can put it this way at the risk of gross oversimplification. But the 4 yogas are like this. Selfless, not selfish, that is karma yoga. Devotion, not desire, that is bhakti yoga. Concentration, not distraction, that is raja yoga. And self-knowledge, not just other knowledge, that is jnana yoga. This is what we do. Last word. Vote of thanks. No.
Swami, it was a very inspiring
Tell us your name.
talk. My name is Sundar, Sri Lanka. My question is, why are we in this process of reflective consciousness through times? Why are we being placed in this reflective consciousness through times? Why are we placed? Why are we in this journey?
Vedanta says,
I'm kind of surprised.
Why are we on this journey? If I am Brahman, why am I on this journey? One American philosopher, I forget his name, Robert Nozick, he asks in one of his articles about Vedanta, actually, he makes a comment. that he was one of the leading American philosophers, and I didn't know until recently he was interested in Vedanta. One philosopher told me, Professor Arindam Chakravarti, he said, yeah, he was fascinated by Vedanta. So one of the critiques he does, asks a question, like a rhetorical challenge. If so clever, why so miserable? If you are the absolute, Sat Chid Ananda, why are you in this horrible state? The answer from Vedanta is also equally remarkable. You are not. You are, when you become enlightened, you will not realize that, oh, I was miserable, now I am delivered, I have become enlightened, it's all great now, it was horrible earlier. No, we'll realize I was perfectly all right all through. It is just right now, because of our ignorance of not knowing the truth, it appears to us this way. Notice, the problem is not with reflected consciousness. The problem is not with time. The problem is not with ego. The problem is not with the mind. The problem is not with the body. The problem is not even with the world. The problem is only with ignorance about our real nature. After enlightenment, Sri Ramakrishna, whether it's Jesus or Ma Sharda or Vivekananda or Ramana Maharshi or any of Nisargadatta, whoever you mean from ancient times till today, after that, did they still subsist in a body? Yeah. Did they still interact with the world? Yes. Crucial question. Did they still have an ego? An ego? Most people would say after reading spiritual literature, they will be misled. They will say, no, they don't have an ego. That would be very strange. Why? It's like saying, after enlightenment, I have a body, my liver functions well, but something went wrong with my brain. I don't have an ego anymore. Something is not functional in my mind. I don't have an ego anymore. Why does, if 99% of the body-mind functions very well, just ego has collapsed? Why? No, that's not what happens. The ego is very much there. But there is also, in one sense, it's not there. In what is the sense in which it's not there? You realize you are not the ego. It's a very big thing. But I said, the person never gets freedom, but you become free of the person. Not that the person will go away. The person will still be there. The person is a mask. You will continue to wear the mask. You will still be known as that person. You look the same. Maybe the little secret smile on your face. and the Upanishads say your face will shine. So that's there. You become like a glowworm or something like that. But even the ego will be there. There's a discussion in Panchadashi about it. What's the difference between the ego of the enlightened one and the ego of the ignorant one? That's a separate subject. So everything will be there because there is no problem with anything. The problem is only with our ignorance. Once the ignorance is gone, the enlightened one happily exists in this world. The Buddha, he taught suffering, old age, disease, death is suffering. And then he went on to his quest and he became enlightened and hopefully free of suffering. Then what happened? He became old, he became sick and he died. But he found something that does not become old, that does not get sick and does not die, and he realizes, I am that. So in that deep sense, he is free of sickness, disease, death, and all sorts of suffering, all sorts of lack. So that clarity will come. Then it will be all right. Then living in this world, in this body, with reflected consciousness, no problem. No body, no world, no reflected consciousness, no problem. It's perfectly all right. Yes. Yes, correct. Thank you so much.